Welcome to another Kingdom Entrepreneurs Business Network podcast where faith meets the marketplace. My name is Alex Ankudovich and I'll be your host today. Some years ago, I was at the church function, and after the event, this business owner comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, Alex, how's business?" So I'm like, "I don't know, we're doing well. I'm working on my business, so at some point it works without me." So then right off the bat, he proceeded to tell me how he thinks, in his opinion, it's not possible. So I'm standing there and I'm listening to the person and I'm like, I have this amazing ability. I just zoom out. I tune out things. That's just me. People sometimes. So anyway, in this conversation, I kind of tuned him out. He is telling me why in his experience it's not possible, and the hard things he faced with hiring people and people leaving him and all of that. And I just zoomed out and I'm just like, man, I read these books that explain, give you step-by-step, ways of how you can do it, implement systems and all of that. And here he is telling me about his reality. So today we want to talk about our topic of the episode is don't be a slave to your business. Today we're going to talk about, is it possible to build a business that works without you? So instead of you working in the business, you can work on the business. So I wanted to jump into this topic of not being a slave to a business, right? And I wanted to start by us looking back at, let's just say, first year to 3 years in the business. Right? When you started the business. Because in the beginning, you're doing so many things at once. I remember one time coming home, busy day. I mean, at that time, I probably had at least 5 people working for me. I come home, I'm tired, I'm exhausted. And my wife is asking me, "Hey, how's your day?" I go, "Well, let me tell you." I pull out my phone. At that point, we're talking about what, 9 years ago. I had an iPhone, I think, back then. And I looked through my call log. I had close to 70 phone calls that day. 70. Then I counted how many text messages. I think it was over 50 text messages that day. I don't think at that point I counted the email. The point was, I was really busy. And at that time, I kind of realized something needs to change. This is crazy. It's exhausting. I am driving. I'm on my phone. I'm texting. I'm replying emails. By the way, one testimony. All of these years, I've driven so much because I measured kitchens and all. And I've never been in an accident. And don't do this at home, all right? But I've been on the phone for many, many miles driving.
By the way, you see a new law in Pennsylvania now.
Yeah, I don't care.
You cannot
don't tell me.
No handheld devices in your hand, not even at the stoplight.
Listen, I dictate nowadays, so just send voice memos. But I'm like, something needs to change. I don't know if you guys relate. I don't know if you guys watching can relate to this, but I was doing so many things in the beginning of the business. So why don't you guys jump in? Tell me, Alex, Konstantin, what was your first few years, how did they look like? What did the whole thing look like?
So in my construction business, it was my third business I started, I think, in 2012. And I ended up working, 80 hours a week. I remember in my office building, I would have a corner office on the 5th floor. And my view was a cemetery. That's the view out of. So I would often look out in the middle of this incredible insanity of running a business, having I thought I had the worst job in the whole office because all the hardest issues would come to me. And sometimes I would wishfully look at that cemetery. I'm thinking, man, people are dying to get there, and this is this is where I'm going. This is how this all ends. But it's it was hard. I mean, working through the nights, pulling all-nighters. Sometimes I would work till midnight and just wrap up, go home, and work till 5 or 6 in the morning at home, just getting all the estimates done, just get a couple hours of sleep and be back in the office. And sometimes I would look at retirees as I'm driving, and I would just envy them. Like, those lucky 80-year-olds. Look at this. They have nothing to do.
So, I mean, in order for you to think that way, you've got to be like in some desperate, like you were working hard.
Yeah, I was keeping statistics of the email log of the whole company, and I always rank as number one in most emails received and most emails answered. And it would be definitely hundreds and hundreds of emails, some 200-300 emails per day that I would answer. And it's not just yes or no. A lot of times it's paragraphs. And mind you, that was before ChatGPT. No one could write them.
How many businesses you ran at that point?
That time, three.
Three businesses.
3 different businesses. Yeah.
3 businesses at once.
Yeah, but my construction and manufacturing business took the bulk of my time. My real estate brokerage and real estate investing business kind of took a back seat at that time. But it's not like I was doing full time in all 3.
So it's safe to say in the beginning it was pretty challenging.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely a slave to my business, and I could say I did not enjoy that part of it at all.
So when did you say to yourself, man, I can't go like this anymore? Like, was there a moment that you vividly remember, like, all right, this happened and this is what I've decided, something has to change?
Yeah, I thought I was having a heart attack. I went to the hospital.
Serious?
I had chest pains.
I didn't know.
And then they thought I had a lung cancer. And at that time, I said, something's got to change. Now, I didn't have a heart attack nor a lung cancer. It was something else. But it was definitely something that really stopped me. Plus, the other thing is my kids, from being little, I have 4 children, and they started to need me. And that was also, I decided to myself, I don't want to be an absentee dad. I don't want to be this busy entrepreneur who is busy doing something, and then 20 years later or 10 years later, your kids don't care about you. You have 0 relationship with them because so those 2 things combined together, they really made me reevaluate my life.
Alex, tell me about your first few years in business.
First few years, excuse me. We opened in 2008, and this is
Perfect year.
perfect
Amazing.
year to start a new business. And my first job was in India. We registered in GPD LLC, and then I went on a mission trip to India.
I remember.
With God will provide. And,
I remember that.
And that's my was plumbing job on my own, over there. So
You went to build a church?
orphanage and
Orphanage.
like a missionary base where they would fly in. And
Very cool.
so
Did
it
they
was,
ever call you back saying, hey, plumbing is back in
no,
Don't answer.
we were in such a poor place where they never saw a tub or a sink, We installed some tubs, and the kids were like, can I sleep in there?
Wow.
I'm like, yeah, you can do whatever you want. But yeah, that was our first job. And just like you guys, I can relate to it when we started. If I think about to start from scratch, it's... I don't want to go back there, when you
Well, why?
in the trench doing
yeah.
installation and sometimes emergency all the way till 10 p.m. And then you come in at night, you have to send out the invoicing, and then you have to send out estimates, and then you have to go in the shop, make an inventory manually.
So what was the longest day you ever worked? Non-stop work?
Oh, nonstop. I worked till
Hours?
throughout
hours.
the whole night till like 3 a.m. I remember, to finish one job.
Yeah.
And driving there home, my brother also was following me. I guess he was tired. We were working together. He got into an accident. Then we went later. The event was totaled. We had to
Wow.
tow it, and stuff. So and thinking about that, I was like, wow, yeah. It's it's like you go to the next level, but I would not say that right now is like easy, but it just my part of the job is different. Now I'm like more delegating guys and watching everything.
I remember we're doing just my partner and I, we try not to work in the field a lot, but we had to rescue this job. It was just a disaster, and we had to go in and do installations. We worked 36 hours straight, no sleep, just quick break for eating, and I couldn't fall asleep after that. You get back to home, and you get back home, and then you lay in your bed and you just can't fall asleep.
Yeah, I mean,
overexhaustion.
When we started, I was single, no family, no kids, so I would just, doesn't matter how much you sleep, So I would not work 36 hours, but I would just maybe sleep 3-4 hours, boom, go. You need to run the jobs, Would wake up 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning to whatever needs to do, because you do everything,
So Alex, you started in 2008. I don't know, you probably can't pick a most challenging time to start a business because of the economy. You guys do a lot of new builds. Back in the day, 2008, new construction was...
Yeah, new construction was that we were doing basements. Finishing basements, additions, renovations, whatever.
Yeah, whatever you can get your hands on.
Anything.
So working late, going back to the office, still need to do the office job, invoices.
Well, didn't have the office. In the beginning, we just rented storages, and my office was my truck. And I had a printer on the side, printing all the permits.
There's that.
Then the first office.
Wow. So you just started with what you had.
Yeah.
It wasn't pretty by any means.
2 vans, that's it.
Yeah. And then you guys getting into the accident after one of the jobs late at night, and you've still done ministry.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. I'm just listening to you guys and just reflecting to me how I've started very similarly. I've slept in the office. We talked about this before. Slept in the office, slept in the car, then purchased the couch, slept in the office. Let's see. We've started, that's another topic. We started our business from our house. My first employee was assembling cabinets in my garage, and the second employee was assembling cabinets in my house on my dining room table. So that's how we've started. It's crazy. So Alex, when was the shift for you when you were like, okay, this is enough? When do you remember like a vivid moment where you're like, all right, I need to change something?
I didn't have moment like Kostya. I didn't look at the cemetery and didn't have those perfect views.
I don't know if I like that view.
It was a daily routine. I'd look out the window and see all the people who...
This is what's waiting for me.
Yeah, that's the future of all of us.
Yeah, but the moments I had where I would think like, okay, if we're going to have an estimator, then I'll be able to do more things. If we're going to have invoicing guy, if we're going to have a permit person, that's the moments that was like, that's it. Because me personally, I'm not an office person. I need to get out. Like even right now, I do more work in the office. I have a stand. My iPad is on a stand, so I can stand up and walk around when I talk because I can't just sit in the office. I don't know. So I enjoy more go out on the job sites, meet with inspectors, meet with guys, go over the jobs. And this is what me thinking that like if I'm gonna have more people in charge of things, that I'm gonna have more free time, and at the same time I can manage it and delegate it stuff. So that's the moments that I had. Like every time it would be something else. Every time it would be something else.
Yeah.
I need another person. I need another person.
So very cool. So you organically kind of just grew.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about this shift, right? Because if you're not going to build something that lasts, you can't make that transition. And a lot of times this transition probably has to start, at least for me, it needed to start with my mentality. So I remember when I started the business, I knew that I'm not going to stay self-employed, right? I knew that I'm going to build a business that at some point is going to work with very minimal involvement from me, right? And I knew it's going to be possible somehow. But I also knew that I need to hire a team and learn how to trust them, right? So talking about the shift, my shift happened, I remember, It's because of you, Konstantin. You gave me this. You told me to read this book, E-Myth, by Michael Gerber. And I read the book. It was so powerful. I probably cried on multiple occasions reading that book. Yeah, I cried. Like, I don't want any negative comments about this, okay? But
do leave comments.
yeah,
You cry?
yeah. Did you read
I never
this book?
see you cry. You're always happy and positive, no matter what happens.
Yeah. Well, I did cry reading this book. That book is very touchy. It talks about
Now I'm sorry I recommended it to you. It hit the soft spot in your soul somewhere.
yeah. I'm sure this is gonna make a good blooper somehow. But that book talks about this lady being stuck in her business. And I read the book and I'm like, yeah, that's me. Right? And after I read the book, I hired the coach from E-Myth. And though I only had that coach for 3 months, and then I mustered up the courage to fire him because I thought he didn't know what he's doing. That's another topic. But one of the
And
first...
this is not defamation, right? This is not a libel. You're just issuing your opinion.
Oh, no. This was me. I
It's not you, it's me, right?
No, this was... my logic or my thought process was so flawed back then. In a sense, I thought I come to this coach and I go, okay, I have this business challenge, right, that I'm facing. Give me an answer. And he goes, well, what do you think? I go, dude, hang on a second. Let's talk about this. I don't want you asking me what I think. I pay you money. You give me the answer. He's like, no, Alex.
That's not how coaching works, right?
He's like, and I didn't understand this back in the day. He's like, no, Alex, my job is to teach you how to think. So I go, time out. I said, you're saying that everything that we are discussing is based on my knowledge, right? All of the answers that I'm going to receive, they'll be based on my knowledge. He's like, kind of, yeah. I go, okay, this doesn't work. We have to part ways. This was on the 3rd month. But in the beginning, we've met every week. He's given me homework to do. And one of the things, we're talking about how this shift happened from being crazy busy to understanding something else is possible. At least, so this is how it happened for me. One of the things as a homework he gave me to do is to create an org chart, how my company will look like 5 years from now.
Wow, it's interesting.
Now, this was probably the most hardest thing back then that I've ever done in business, because I was an amazing technician, right? I loved doing what I do. I was good at what I was doing, right? But this was one of those things where I sit down and spend a few hours working on the business. It's foreign. It was one of the most challenging things, and they write this in the book because I had to start thinking versus doing things and going out and just doing what I love, right, in kitchens. So I probably took about 3 weeks to come up with it. It was very hard because their thing was come up with all of the bubbles, and then each bubble has to have 3 to 5 responsibilities for that specific role. And you think how your company will look like 5 years from now. So I've done that exercise, and years passed by, and I attribute all of me implementing the systems in the business to that exercise. Because what they teach in this book is once you do the org chart, you start hiring people from the bottom levels and then go up, and then go up. When I done coaching with people that are just starting the business and asking questions, Alex, how do I grow? Like I'm running in circles, and this is the first thing I tell them to do. If you're able to do the 5-year org chart right? And understand each job description and write down 3 to 5 responsibilities, it's going to give you so much more permission, because in the beginning, it was challenging for me to hire people. It gave me permission to an understanding, okay, here's how the company is going to look like. Now I can hire from the bottom up. So this is what kind of, I remember this was a shift that happened in my life and helped me structurize the business and grow the business. So guys, what belief did you have to let go of before you could build a real business? What was one of the challenges that you had to maybe shift your mentality, step over some of the things? Like, what's something that you had to let go of to go to the next level?
I think for me, it was in my early 20s. And this is when I got into real estate, got my real estate license, and left my software engineering job. There was sort of this invincibility complex. I can do it all. I am gifted, talented. I can accomplish things. And then all those people who failed, that's not about me. As I progressed into my late 20s and got into my early 30s, I began to really, really encounter my limitations. So first thing that had to happen, I had to recognize that I'm very, very, very limited. And I'm not gifted at all, or like not nearly as gifted as I thought in my early 20s. I had to face the fact that, like now I know I can accomplish very little.
But Konstantin, what you're saying, this is, I feel like this is such an issue just by talking to so many entrepreneurs that...
Oh yeah, by 25, I'll be financially independent. I'll have millions of dollars, maybe a billionaire. Now, some people, it does happen to some people, and usually at their detriment. I've seen many people who widely succeeded in their early 20s, and I haven't met people who haven't had to face family crisis, just deterioration of their personality, pride issues, all those things that really, I would not want to become that person because of the wild success in the early 20s. That was not my story. So I was not wildly successful. I was working a lot, but I was not calculating things. I was just not calculating risks. I would just jump head first. And all these long hours of work, I'm not looking at them as like bragging rights. Look how much I worked. I'm looking at that as a failure to know your limits and just failure to know how to run the business properly. This is not a badge of honor. This is showing, okay, if you're just starting out in business, how about you read some books? How about you learn how to do it and then you do it? Because if you're going to be diving head first and work crazy hours, you may not be able to come out of it well.
Yeah. But
But don't you think it's a great experience you have? You can pass it to your kids. And
it's a great experience, but I don't want to pass it in a way it's like you have to do what I did and do it the same way. Now, was there another way for me to learn my limits without doing that? Maybe not. Maybe I had to go and work a lot of hours, carry some losses to understand my limitations. So I start planning better, so I start thinking through. Maybe that is the only way, and that's like a very common story of most entrepreneurs. We talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, right? And that's a pretty typical story of working a lot of hours, and then until you're saying something's got to change.
But Konstantin, a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, they work a lot of hours because what you've mentioned earlier, they think that they can do it the best. The idea of delegating, you can do it faster, right? It's easier for me to do something versus I have to teach you, I have to explain it to you. It's going to take me half an hour. I'll just do it in 2 minutes, right? Yeah. That's another pitfall that a lot of people, entrepreneurs, fall into.
My business partner used to have this saying that if you don't do it yourself, it doesn't get done right.
Wow.
And that was our mindset. And it was like...
that will lead to a lot of hours.
And that leads to a lot of hours because you can never hire anyone better than you with that mindset. Yeah. And so we had to... and I was of that similar mindset too. So we had to change because if you want to scale a company, if you ever want to have actual real business... I have an interesting take on some of this as well. We have... people call me sometimes and ask... and they say, I want to sell my business. And I asked them this question. If you left for 3 months, could your business survive?
Yeah.
And the common answer I get, if I left for 2 days, my people would have no idea what to do. And then my answer is, you have no business.
Yeah.
You're self-employed with a bunch of helpers
Yeah.
because you don't have you have nothing to sell.
Yeah. I remember back in the day when I was learning about business, I used to listen a lot to Robert Kiyosaki. I had this CD back in the day, and he was just talking about his mindset about life and entrepreneurship. And he was talking about the business. His definition of the business was this: if you, as a business owner, leave your business for 1 year, come back and find it better than you left it, then it's a business.
So mine was less conservative than his in that sense. But
Yeah. Alex, how do you?
That's very radical.
What's the one thing that like your mindset that needed to shift? Right, Konstantin just mentioned he had this mentality. I can do it all the best. Right, no one's gonna do it better than I can. What was some of the things that you needed to shift in your?
I was scared about everything. Like, that I let somebody manage the house, supervise the house, mark the house. What if the details gonna be missed? Then later, estimates. What if they miss something on the estimate? What if invoicing guy missed somebody? What if we pay this subcontractor and he's not done? Everything. What if the subcontractor put the wrong price, overcharged us? All these details, and I was just afraid about. But a lot of watching, learning, reading. John Maxwell says, if you want to go fast, you can go alone.
Yeah.
If you want to go far, you need people. You need a team. So our biggest asset is people. The people that work in our company in every area. It's without them, without good team, without good people, it's impossible. And that's one thing that when you have these good people, you can trust them. You can have relationship with them. For me, like I've been telling all the time, all employees, if I have some issues, I said, if I lose trust, that's it. We cannot work together.
Yeah. So what was let me rephrase this question. By talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, probably all of us face this question, right? How do you hire someone? How do you trust someone, right? And you just talked about being scared to let go. And what was that? Was there a shift that you were like, okay, now I can trust someone? Like, what happened there?
Yeah, there is a shift. You test people out,
Okay.
We went through a lot of people. Some people, we couldn't work together because of personality or because of, couldn't work together. They may be good professional in their profession, they category, whatever we needed. But it just constantly was like, I don't know, not a pressure, but the miscommunication or disagreement. And it's like, you want to have peace. You want to enjoy, you want to have good environment. So you just let go of people. And some people, they prove them. They prove themselves that like, hey, look, I'm capable of doing this. I can handle this. They prove them. And then like, you trust them. And then there was the moments where different people would come in. That we had relationship with different vendors and their salesperson. I remember Joe Navarra. This guy was coming to our office all the time when he was selling material. And he said, guys, you at the stage when you and Bogdan have to stay back and let the team handle the warehouse management and let Sergey handle the supervising part, meetings. You don't have to be everything micromanaged. And I was like, you really? Like, I'm scared, what if this, that? He's like, yes, you have to. You just step back and delegate.
So what was this process, stepping back and delegating?
And it was not just like, oh, yeah, that's it. I'm not showing up to anymore to the meetings. It was just step by step, one person, like we talked with Tim, we met with him. Okay, now we have 3 purchasing guys. Used to be just 1, So same thing with Tony, estimator. Same thing with Sergey. He would be like main with supervising meetings and scheduling. So all these things, it just takes time. I don't think it's possible to just like hire and like in 1 week, here you go, you're in charge, that's it,
So to kind of wrap this up, in your opinion, right, because you guys are around a lot of entrepreneurs, what is the one lie or something, maybe some sort of incorrect mindset that you've seen in other entrepreneurs almost got stuck on and they couldn't grow, they were in the way?
Well, the lie is that Kostya mentioned that the job could only going to be done if you do it, 100%. Like there's also talented people, and some people, like I'm really bad with computer and technology. So I have IT guys, in my office that they can do better than me. Set up a software programs, for inventory, for punching app, all these things. There is guys that can run it and they're good at it, So that's we need to trust people. Obviously, you still test and try it, if you can work with them and everything. So, but people is really good if you give them even like responsibility and give them freedom to be creative. So some people, they can probably do some jobs better than you.
Yeah, that's true.
And you have to admit that. And I'm humble to admit that.
Yeah.
I know that certain things I'm good at, but some things there's people in my office, in my field, they better than me.
Yeah.
And that's good.
Konstantin, what do you think? What are some mindset limitations or something else you've seen with other entrepreneurs?
So obviously it's the one that that Alex said and I mentioned before. If you don't do it yourself, it doesn't get done right. And the other one is just fear to let go. I mean, your business is your baby, and you're just afraid that your employees will screw it up and then do it wrong. And in that light, I had to view my employees as multipliers, not as like expense.
Okay.
I'd used to look at them as an expense that I have to carry. So I have to work 3 times harder so I can carry this expense of an employee, and they're like necessary evil, not evil necessity, necessary evil. And then I began to see that they're actually the multipliers of my success. So I hire a good salesperson, I can sell more jobs. I can increase my volume. I hire more installers, I can sell more jobs as well because I have the capacity now to do it. And they bring in more money, they bring in more revenue into the company. So I began to view employees as, we always say that our best resources are people. But I really began to view it that way, that, my people are the best resource, and they can go work anywhere else, but they choose to work for me. And I'm honored that they choose to work for me. And they're multiplying our company, multiplying what we have, our capacity, and, bringing me, helping build equity and bringing more revenues and hopefully income.
Very good. Yeah. So on the topic of trusting people, I remember I was going through this transition, and when I was hiring people, I've told them, look, you're coming in to work for me, right? And you're extending me your trust that I'm going to pay you on time, that I'm going to have enough work, that, whatever I'm promising you, I'll deliver. I'm like, you also need to understand that I am extending my trust to you, right? I'm giving you so many things, giving you clients that we worked for so long. Like I remember I had this conversation with you when you were saying that, Alex, it's your reputation on the line. When the person makes a mistake, right? At the end of the day, years or some time from now, they'll probably leave. That's just how life works.
Yeah, and you're stuck with whatever mistakes they've done, right?
Yeah, and you carry that reputation with you forward, right? Because it's yours, it's the company. So I remember that. This was probably conversation 5 years ago at least. I remember that. It was just so bright. So it was interesting for me to go through the process of, all right, I'm going to extend my trust, right? And I've had people that broken my trust, and we had to part ways. Sometimes part ways with good people, good technicians, right? But they weren't a good fit culturally and things like that. So just to reflect, Konstantin, you shared about this mindset of, man, I'm going to do things really well. I am the best at this. And then shifting that mindset to, man, realizing people that you hire, the team is someone that's going to multiply things around. And then Alex, you were scared to let go, and then went through a lot of people, and then started giving opportunities for people to grow and kind of watch, and then step back and observe and delegate more responsibilities. Just let go of responsibilities instead of tasks. And I've done that. That's another story for another time. So this quote comes to mind by Henry Ford. And a lot of times when I talk to entrepreneurs and we're talking about growing and stuff like that, and sometimes people in the meetings, people talk more than they should ask questions, right? If they want to learn. And I'm sitting there sometimes. I talked in the beginning about zooming out. I'm sitting there and I'm listening to what the person is saying. And Henry Ford has this amazing quote: whatever you think you can, you're right. And whatever you think you can't, you're right. Right? It's your mindset. Yeah. If you're not willing to let go of things and learn from others and shift your mentality, you're going to be stuck. And I've seen stuck people. Let me rephrase this. I've seen people that did not want to shift in their mentality, try to grow, and then come back.
Yeah, you're the impediment to your own success. 100 times.
What does that mean?
A while back, I read this book, and I can't remember what the book is, but I remember what the person said. Rule number 1 to success is learning these magic couple words in the English language. And it's all my fault.
Yes.
Right? That's the best. Like, number 1 formula to success is always blame yourself. Never blame your parents, your environment, the economy, I don't know, COVID-19, whatever. It's all my fault. And that is taking responsibility for your actions, which changes everything. Because if it's all my fault, I can fix it. If it's the economy's fault, I can't fix the economy. If it's the tariffs' fault, I can't fix the tariffs. But if it's my fault, then I have the agency in this. There's things I can do and I will do to make the trajectory of where my life is going.
I was just recently listening to Boundaries with Kids book by Henry Cloud. I think Henry Cloud and someone else. Anyway, they were talking about this interesting statistic. When they ask other psychiatrists or counselors, hey, in percentage, when a person has some sort of background, right, and this could be related to our mindset. So in percentage, how much percent as a person grows, how much percent is their upbringing influences them, right? Whatever happened in their household, whatever. And then what's the percentage what the person is responsible for in their life? Like, what's that balance? Would you say it's 50-50, 50% how you were brought up influence your future life, and then 50% it's your own fault type of deal? And an interesting answer is that mostly everyone had this similar percentage. 30% is your upbringing, and then 70% is you. It's you. You are. It's all my fault, right? Realizing that you're responsible. You're responsible for your own growth.
And that's what I mean. A lot of us are impediments to our own success because of our lack of understanding, our lack of knowledge, not knowing how to run specifically. Like, it's true in every area of life, but specific to this conversation, it's true in business. Just we worked all those crazy hours, and even still do sometimes now, because we don't know any better, because we failed to learn, failed to foresee, and our limitations in our mind, like it can't be done better unless I do it myself, and all those things, they block our access to having greater success.
Yeah,
we prevent it ourselves.
Yeah. So before we go on with this podcast, thank you so much for being here with us and listening or watching. I want to encourage you to subscribe on whatever platforms you're consuming the content. And share this content with other entrepreneurs. That would be awesome. Would mean a lot for us. And then we'll be giving away a book called E-Myth. So if you go to YouTube and leave us your comment, what's your biggest takeaway from this episode is, and we'll pick 3 people and we'll mail the book to you. So make sure you like, subscribe, share the content with others, and go ahead, comment so we can send you a book. Thank you. So what I wanted to do now is shift to more practical things, right? We're talking today about not being a slave.
I like it.
Good. So
Like, enough with this philosophy.
I like this practical stuff. Come on.
Alex, ever so practical and pragmatic, right?
So our topic today, we're trying to understand how in the world are you're not slave to the business, right? What do you do? How can you shift from working in the business to working on the business, right? So I'm going to ask you this question. I'm going to answer it first. Give me your top 3 systems that you've implemented over the years. You will say, man, these systems just gave me so much, right? It was amazing, right, for the business. So I'm going to give you my top 3 things that I've implemented over the years. So after reading the E-Myth book that you recommended, we've done work on the org chart with the coach. And then this book proposes this idea of scorecard. And then you also told me to read Traction by EOS. Yeah, you have. That's a good book. We're sharing
Actually,
a lot of.
The first one
Get a
is
Grip.
Get a Grip. It's the same. Traction is the How to, and Get a Grip is a novel
So this is my book.
by Gino Wickman.
Yeah, Traction by Gina Wickman. And
This sounds starting to look like a book club here.
yeah, I have a few more here.
I
So
just have it to you.
Alex, are you more like an audiobook guy?
No, I have books. I like hard copies.
Yeah.
I actually, you told me that you do a lot of audio listening, and I tried it. I don't know. For me,
Yeah,
it's easier
yeah.
a hard book.
Konstantin, I always make fun when we're on Zoom. You have this huge bookshelf in the back of you. I'm like, dude, it looks fake, and you.
I had to
stand up-
literally go back and pick a book to prove that it's not fake.
Yeah. No, because
It's
everything
not a
is
chroma
like,
key, okay?
No, it's like sorted by color or
And
something
it looks like
that.
you love to read, and you talk.
I didn't read most of them, but my college textbooks and
Yeah,
all that.
cut that part out, right? So I read the E-Myth, and then you told me to read this Traction book by EOS, Entrepreneurial Operations System. And they talk
And the
about...
entrepreneur operation system, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, whatever he said. They talk about this concept of scorecard, right? Running a scorecard. So I remember I started self-implementing it, and I ran a scorecard on a weekly basis. All right. If you want to know why on a weekly basis, read the book. So I started running the scorecard. It was game-changing, right? Because we had salespeople, and I gave them their numbers, and I looked at some other numbers, closing ratios, some things. Now my scorecard looks different than it was before, but anyway, I started self-implementing. Scorecard played a huge role on a weekly basis. I can almost read the temperature of my business, not monthly basis, on a weekly basis. Then implementing EOS, right? What this book Traction talks about, implementing their whole system in the business, starting the entrepreneurial EOS. It's like organizational structure type of deal. You run your business on it. It provides accountability, gives you framework on how to set goals and all of that stuff. EOS shifted the whole picture of me working in the business versus me working on the business. It was just groundbreaking for me. So EOS was amazing. And then one other system that we've implemented, CRM. Man, CRM gave me so much visibility in operations and keeping track of leads and understanding where the leads are coming from. We're not guessing anymore. Then creating lists, sending out emails, text messages, sending out text messages to the lost list. That's a nugget for someone. Whoever is listening, take note of this. If you have a CRM and you've never reached out to the lost list of all of the estimates that you've given to people, and they're just sitting in the pile in the lost list, you should reach out to that list. There's a lot of gold buried there.
Yeah.
We get jobs from a lost list
20% potential.
Yeah, amazing.
customers for that.
So, I when I started implementing this, right? I'm coming to you next. When I started implementing this, I remember this mindset shift that needed to happen. Remember I mentioned 70 calls per day and then a bunch of text messages? I'm like, okay, things have to change. I have to delegate decision making to people, not just tasks. I needed to delegate some responsibilities. So I remember I'm driving, I'm in between the appointments, I'm returning, I see a missed call from the office. I call, let's say one of the designers called, they're like, hey, Alex, I have this quick question. And now I have a dilemma. I can answer that question in about 30 seconds and be gone with, just continue with my day, right? Or take 15 minutes and teach the person to make the decision how I would make it, but it would cost me so much time. It was an effort for about 6 months. I remember going like on month 4 or so, I returned the phone call and they're like, hey, Alex, I had this question that I called you, but you know what? I think I figured it out. I think I have the answer. I go, yes, right? Somewhere inside, I was like, man, it's working. So it took me about 6 months for people to stop calling me and start making their own decisions. So it was a constant effort for me. It was fairly challenging. Anyway, so those were just the things that kind of impacted me. Alex, let's start with you. What were 2-3 systems, practical things that really impacted your business?
Oh, there is a lot. I just, you're saying such a big words, CRM and stuff. Like, what if the guy have 3-5 guys? Why does he need all this? You can just write in the notepad on the iPad right now, and that's it. Keep track of everything. But for us, as we were growing, it was hard. And thank you. You were pushing me. The first thing was the warehouse material.
Yeah.
Alex would come every time he would see our shop. He's like, Alex, they stealing material from you. People are people. They change when they see there is no accountability. There is no control.
Okay, let's give a little content around.
Yeah, because you were working at a bigger company. You were managing the warehouse or something like that, right? And you were like telling all the stories from there.
But I come in, and as a good coach would,
Yeah.
I've learned.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, tell me about the systems.
Yeah.
Like, how in the world do you manage this? And you guys were managing it off the napkin.
Yeah.
Well, not quite,
Yeah,
but
just on the piece of paper.
I'm like, dude, you can't. I'm looking at this huge warehouse. There's so much material.
Yeah.
I'm like, so walk me through the process. You have a job, and how do people grab material out of the warehouse? And I'm like, boy,
Yeah.
you need the scanner. It has to be tied into your work order, and like one person is responsible to make anyway. So that's why I was saying these things.
That's the whole process, and it takes such a long time to set it up and train people.
Yeah.
It's just crazy,
Effort.
It's not like boom in 1 week everybody knows and they doing it. Even to organize it, tag it, everything, finding a name, those barcodes and everything. But thank God we did it. That was the first thing, inventory for the material, the software. We used it one, we switch it to different one. Then it would be like punching in for guys, the app on the phone. You can do on the trucks, you can do in the office with the scanning your finger. And then we would do tracking on the vents and cameras. And then we trained one guy in Ukraine that he would do all the, that was after that book. I was reading that book, 4 week, I forgot the name.
CEO or something like that?
Yeah. So anyway,
It's going to be in the description.
Yeah, it's going to be in the descriptions, yeah. And I learned from that book. I found somebody out of, United States, and it was remotely from Ukraine. He learned how to do all the drawings for permits and start, we just set up an email from him. It was just weird that he would be emailing builders in townships like 3 o'clock in the morning, But it doesn't matter, they don't look at the time. They just see they got the email. And then at the same time, we train him to check all the tracks, all the GPSs, all the punching in. He can do that because it's just remote work. You just check every day. It matches your punch in, your track matches with your job. and then notes, what you did on the job, reports, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was, learning process in
Yeah.
progress. It's not like, oh, I knew this is what I'm going to do. It was just like idea
cool.
came out, we start implementing.
Very cool.
It was step by step. Now
That's cool.
we been working for 3 years now. We got a Simpro software for our company to combine everything: plumbing, HVAC, estimate, invoicing, inventory, showroom, like all these details like into one, which is took us 3 years. We're still not done.
Yeah.
We still have meetings where we training guys, implementing. It's not easy,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's the only way to do it
Yeah.
if you want to continue, because it's getting out of control at a certain point of.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Konstantin, 2 to 3 systems you've implemented over the years that completely impacted the business.
So number one is CRM.
CRM.
Having CRM, I had that in my real estate brokerage, as a realtor just doing all the sales myself. In construction company, we implemented CRM. And I would disagree with you, Alex, about if you have 1 or 2 guys.
I'm waiting
you don't
for
need
that.
CRM.
Yes, do it.
You need CRM if you're working by yourself,
Yeah.
at least to manage your contacts, sales, and leads.
Yeah, I agree. No, right now there's a lot of choices that you can get the cheap one. You can be $50
Yeah,
a
correct.
month.
They're not very expensive.
Yeah, right now, yes. You have a lot of
relatively.
choices, yeah.
But
This is probably one of the, if
Yeah, all guys should do it, even if you have 2 guys. Do
yeah,
it. I agree.
if we had a list of systems that you need to start implementing,
Mm-hmm.
right, when you start the business, CRM is going to be in it. Like, there's no
Yeah,
other way
yeah.
around it. Like, you
Yeah.
see where the people come from, you subscribe them to lists, then you do emails out of that, SMS messages out of that, voice drops out of that. I mean, everything.
I mean, you have Google Drive and OneDrive, which is free. It works great at a certain.
I mean,
Excel
you
sheets,
you could put together your own CRM
Yes, yeah.
through Excel spreadsheets and all that, or Google's. It's just better when it's sort of cloud-based system that it's easy to add users, and then as you hire people, it's all there.
And one thing that people miss a lot of times, like, for example, CRM is not just you need to go in and record the customer. CRM is also forms, right? So if you have a website and you have a form on your website, that form should be from your CRM.
Yep.
The moment the form is filled out,
It goes to your CRM.
it goes into your CRM.
That's
It
it.
sorts the customer into correct buckets and all of that. Like, it's so crucial. Go ahead. Sorry, CRM.
Yeah, so that's one. The second that was really, really life-changing for me is the EOS system by Gino Wickman. It's simple, yet it's ingenious at the same time. We self-implemented the EOS system. I would say we implemented a lot of it, not 100%, all of it. The one part of this that was really, really, you mentioned the scorecard, which we had as well. But for our business model, the part that really, really changed our business was the core values part of it.
Oh, yeah.
You start with core values, and that enabled us with People Analyzer on there, where you can analyze your employees on the quarterly reviews and quarterly meetings and help them see, are they a good fit to your core values of the company? And also, as far as their professional qualifications, are they in the right seat? So right people in the right seats. That was groundbreaking for us by far. Once we discovered our core values, we implemented that in our company. We began to analyze our employees. We began to hire the right people. As Jim Collins in Good to Great book writes, getting the right people on the bus. Once we got the right people on the bus, our turnover, which was a nightmare for us, pretty much stopped. It was like in a year, the transformation was amazing. It was almost magic how we stopped getting people quitting. And 90% of people who would quit, within a year, they would call back and ask, is my job still available? Because it changed the very nature and the environment of the business. We hired the people that were a great fit for who we were as a company with our DNA, also known as core values. And they liked working with each other.
Yeah.
So you start building this team environment, and that was groundbreaking for us.
Very cool. So let me just do a little reflection here, and I'm going to ask you a very hard question. You ready? So Alex, you mentioned practical things, inventory management software for you guys. groundbreaking. Then you shifted to time station, people clocking in remotely and all of that, GPS tracking. You've hired remote help that helped you a lot. Konstantin, you said that CRM was very crucial for you guys, and then EOS just changed the way the business worked. And core values, that's probably in just an episode within itself, just talking about core values. And I have a very interesting story. Core values for us was very, very, very impactful. So, and I also shared about Scorecard, EOS, and CRM. So one of the things I realized, I was sitting in a business meeting with my friends, and I heard one of my friends say, "Hey, I am in a meeting with my managers," and he owns a company. I'm in a meeting with my managers, and he's like, "We're sitting in the meeting." Oh, by the way, we're talking about not being a slave to your business, right? So he's sitting in the meeting with managers, and he's like, I have a rule in a meeting with the managers. They cannot give me a task. My managers cannot give me a task or to do unless it's directly tied in to a job description or my goals that I have either for a quarter or for the year. It blew me away. I'm sitting there like my jaw dropped, and I'm like, what? Because though I was so focused on implementing systems in the business, I had still a little bit of what you were sharing. Man, I can do this better, faster. I don't know. I wasn't thinking. And I remember we had some meetings with managers. I reviewed the to-dos from the meeting, and there's like 5, 6 to-dos for me and only 1 or 2 for someone else. I'm like, this is not right. So this was a mind shift for me. I lead my managers' meetings now. I take a to-do if no one else can do it, truly, right? And it's not in their job description, and it's like, all right, maybe it falls in between the cracks somewhere, I'm going to take it. Otherwise, it's not mine. So this was an interesting shift, though we've implemented so many different systems, but this thing of delegation, this thing of letting go, right? And not trying to do everything yourself and giving the team the opportunity to shine. So here's the hard question.
Yeah, I was waiting for the hard question.
Yes. What was the hardest thing for you to delegate?
Everything was hard, but the hardest probably about finances, when estimating and invoicing and paying invoices. I still till today nervous that they pay something that was not supposed to be paid, or they overpay.
Hold on. Okay. My brain you just went 3 different directions. You said estimating, invoicing, and then AR. All right. So which one was the hardest?
Which one is the hardest?
Just overall?
I think these 3 is, it just, like, you have to double check, triple check. And I don't know if people do that, because it's like, they just getting paid and it's not their money, It's a different feeling, attached to it. Like when you have to pay the bill and, everything's right, the price is good, because it's when it's a large scale, prices changes all the time. You have to check all these prices with vendors, with subcontractors.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, they do on purpose. A lot of people, they say, oh, it's just done by mistake. They send you a bill with the wrong price. Yeah.
Because when you do huge volume, they think some things just gonna
slide through, and that's it.
Wow.
And this is what I'm always thinking, like how to create AI that can just audit it, without putting too many hours.
I think we're there.
We're almost there. I'm working on it with Andre.
Yeah, very cool. Konstantin, what was the hardest thing for you to do?
Definitely the bookkeeping and finances. I had a hard time letting go of that. I felt like I had to control it. I had to make sure that the right bills got paid, that the vendors we hired, I reviewed it. I made sure that They got paid what they're supposed to get paid, not more or not less. And I spent a lot of time. I mean, we had office staff who would help with bookkeeping, but I kept tight control of bookkeeping. When we hired our professional VP of finance, we got to a level where we needed one. And we got really, really lucky. We hired a really good person. Not only he was a great fit to our core values, we even became decent friends. But it was so liberating when a professional took our finances and he learned our systems, and then he changed a lot of things. He made us lean, more efficient. He could project things. He would come to our managers meeting with analysis, what went wrong on the jobs, just from analyzing finances and telling us, here's what went wrong. Wow. Here's what you need to change. And it was so like, wow, why didn't we do this 5 years ago? Why was I doing it myself when I hardly qualified to be a professional CPA? And I hate bookkeeping with that too. So that was very liberating, hard to let go of, and very liberating. And the second one, I would say probably sales. It's client relationships. It's just, we've built this relationship, me personally, with clients, and just delegating it to somebody else. It's kind of like, it's your more treasured thing is your relationship with your clients, with your customers. And because for us, we had larger jobs. Our jobs ranged from, $250,000 to a couple $1 million per job. So it was a relation. It was not, where we didn't have a lot of customers. It was hundreds, but it wasn't like thousands. So that was, delegating that was hard.
So I wanted to kind of reflect on everything we've said so far, and then kind of bring it down to a close and talk about some of the very important things that should happen in our lives. So far, the topic is we're talking about how not to be a slave to your business. And we talked about the beginning, how it's just crazy in the beginning and we were doing everything. And then this mind shift, right, that we went through, and then the systems that we've implemented, right? But you guys also, so obviously you guys have built some respectful businesses, right? I am asking, I know I was asking myself this question, at what point do I really figure out the balance between, I still need sufficient amount of time for my family, for my relationships, for my relationship with God as well, right? Not to get lost. And this is another topic where we can even talk about people being so busy in the beginning of their businesses, they're burning out, right? The statistics of how many businesses fail in their first year is staggering. Like, I don't know.
I think 90% in the first year and another 90% in the first 5 years.
Yeah.
10% of the survivors, 90% will fail in the next 5.
Yeah. So
you have 1% chance of really surviving your business past 5 years.
And I had this also experience when one of the businesses I've started with family, right? And it failed. And the strain that it put on the relationship is challenging. A lot of people go into business, the startup years are very hard, right? And failure is very high. And especially when you go into partnerships. I know we're going to have a conversation about partnerships. We're going to invite your partnership, Bo, and we'll talk about...
Good luck.
We'll talk about...
Somehow it works for you guys.
Yeah. But people don't realize they go...
Somehow.
Well, we'll dive into it. But people don't realize that because the failure rate is so high, right? It brings so many... challenges. I think you mentioned before where when we were talking, you're like, look, people face bankruptcy, right? What happens when you borrowed money from your relatives and you face bankruptcy, right? It's like one thing, the court says you don't have to pay him back, right? But those are the realities,
Yeah.
right?
But the relative will disagree.
Yes. So at what point, like in this, I don't know, like you're so much involved, you're busy, you're driven, right? At one point, do you really stop and notice that some other things are slipping away, right? For me, when I was working, started the business, we didn't have kids, so yes, I slept in the office because it took time for me to go back and forth from the house and stuff like that. But then I realized that the relationship with my wife was suffering, right? And at some point I had to start implementing boundaries, right, in my life. Currently, like I am trying to stay pretty strict with different boundaries that I have. Like, for example, for me, Mondays, they're meeting days. I meet with people, Zoom calls, all of that, pretty busy. Tuesdays, I'm trying to be light on meetings, but that's my catching up on to-dos. Wednesdays, I have the managers meeting. Thursdays is ministry for the most part, meeting with friends. Friday, meeting with friends, catching up on to-dos, having some meetings.
And then Saturday, Sunday, go to retreats.
Did not see that coming, but sure. Oh,
Which
boy.
seemed like for you on a weekly basis.
Yeah. And then Saturday is usually my day off, where I try to I spend time.
Jewish?
Shabbat shalom. So, but then I've tried to very much protect my evening, so I'm with the kids, right? So anyway, so I had like these boundaries. I had to start making rules, and I had to work out. Some people don't know how to say this one simple word, no. It's hard for them. An employee comes in and says, hey, can you do this for me? No, right? You have to learn.
Yeah.
There's this concept of taking on the monkeys, right? At the end of the day.
That was the rule I had.
Yeah.
You walk in with a monkey, you're walking out with your monkey.
Yes.
I can only tell you maybe how to do it,
Yeah.
but you're doing it yourself. Yeah.
So just this concept of having boundaries and learning how to say no, right? Because we're running 100 miles an hour, right? So I wanted to talk about how do you focus on what matters. I guess my first question, you guys can jump in and just talk about these boundaries. Have you ever came close to losing something important because of your business? For example, I over the years, I've spent time with people that have been struggling in their relationships at home because of business, right? Anyway, what's your take on this?
I have a great story. It happened yesterday. So they had running for education in my kids' school.
Okay.
And they want me to come in. I have different ages kids. Malka 10, James 8, and Esme after James. And James and Esme were running at 10:30. It's for like 1 hour, 10 to 11, I think, yeah. And Malka for like 11:45 to 12:45. And I came because I only could have make it at 10:30. And I even ran 2 circles with them. I stayed till they finished it. And all my 3 kids ran the most rounds, so they got the gold medal, reward. And I couldn't make it for the 11:45 for Malka, and I was like so upset deep inside me. Like she didn't care. My wife went and she stayed for both, but I wanted to be there just to cheer up, and because every lap they do, you stand there with all the parents and teachers. And this is the moments, I hear the stories that the previous generation, they tell us these stories that you were focused in the business and then you miss all these events in school with kids, and they invite you and you even watch movies about this. And you, deep in my mind, I don't want to be that person, I want to be different. But things like that happen. Things like that come up in the business, and I made a promise, like inside of me, like next year, because they do this yearly, I want to make sure I take the day off and I participate, run with them, and just cheer them up. And this is the moment. That's it. They're never gonna come back. They're gonna grow up too fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's probably I'm gonna have another emergency at the business the same day the event is happening. You know that somebody have to cover it.
You know what I realize whenever you schedule these type of things,
Everything goes
always something comes up. It's like it's never a good time to leave for a vacation or
No.
go for such an event. It's just the thing. And the question is, how do you deal with it? Konstantin, what are you thinking? What you've experienced and seen?
I think the most critical thing for anyone who starts a business is to answer a question of why. Not in the sense that why my product, why should customers buy from me? That's important, obviously, in the business. Your unique value proposition and all that. But the question of why am I starting this business? What is my expectation from it? Why? Because most people, given that failure rate in business, they would do better financially if they work for somebody else.
Yeah.
And the answer to why, in my view, to someone who's values-based person, someone who's Christian, cannot be, I just want to make a lot of money. If that is your primary motivation for getting in business, it will burn you out, because there will be years when you'll be nonprofit. There will be years when you will be losing in some years because, again, your mistakes or whatever. Blame yourself, of course, always. And so it's important to answer why.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer to me was, the reason I'm starting in the business is when I worked as a software developer after college, and they only gave me 2 weeks vacation. That's all I got. And I love to go on missions. I love to do things with my, I was single at that time, but I foresaw I'm going to have a family, I'm going to have children. I mean, I may have 4 weeks after a while, but that's all I get.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of the time I have to be working, and I wanted my freedom. I wanted the flexibility of schedule. I wanted to be able to control when I work, when I don't work, take longer trips if I had to. That was my why. And for that, I was willing to pay the price of maybe earning less, of maybe putting a lot of work in the beginning, but I wanted to get to a place where I could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up getting into real estate investing as a vehicle for that, for me, through businesses and whatnot. And so that is very, very important to anyone who's listening, to any entrepreneur. Why are you getting into this? If your why is to get a lot of money, most likely you will lose your family. By far, majority of people who pursue and chase after money, and that's the primary motivation, they will lose their family. And it's crazy. You hear all these people talk about, you got to prioritize your career, your job. That's the most important thing. If you want to succeed, you cannot have any distractions. And that's true. You will succeed, but at what cost?
Mm-hmm.
I have this book here that I bought 19 years ago by Dennis Felix, How to Get Rich. Okay. And so when he wrote this in 2006, in the book, he claims he spent $100 million on women and drugs. And just talking about, all the errors he's done in his life, what he didn't know when he was writing this book, that he was going to die in 2014 at the age of 67 from throat cancer. So at one of the last chapters of the book, he basically asked this question. If you're young, he says, you're infinitely richer than I am. And you're going to have to put a lot of time and a lot of effort and put everything on the line. Your family, your kids, everything comes secondary if you want to get really, really wealthy. And at the end of the day, he says, it's really interesting. He says, am I happy?
Mm-hmm.
And he says, no. He says, or at least only occasionally when I'm walking in the woods alone, or deeply ensconced in composing a difficult piece of verse, or sitting quietly with old friends over a bottle of wine, or feeding a stray cat. I could do all those things without wealth. So it's wealth will never make you happy. If the pursuit of profit is your main motivation, you will lose everything. Another person that I wanted to, in contrast, is this book, Leadership Not by the Book, David Green, who is the the owner of Hobby Lobby, his net worth is at this point is estimated like something like $14 billion, much richer than I think Felix Dennis, who owned lots of publishing companies, and he quotes in his book, "No career is more important than your children knowing and serving God. The worst thing you can do is achieve success but lose your family." And he talks about how he prioritizes his family, how he his everything is surrounding his family, and there's a cost to this. So I would say priority number one is our relationship with God and our family. And if it comes at a cost of you not running a business, it's not worth running a business to sacrifice your family. This is why these systems and everything we're talking about are critical.
Yeah.
Not just because you'll work less hours or whatnot, but because it would help you prioritize your family, your children, and it will help you run a much more streamlined life and achieve your goals.
You know, it was interesting observation for me on this, talking about retreats. We've done, I think, previous retreat on last year, we've done core values and personal core values, not core values in the business, personal core values. You know what was interesting observation for me? And this is retreat with business owners, entrepreneurs. Most of people did not have their personal core values, or at least they were never written down. And to me, okay, I had them written down 2 weeks before the retreat. I had them in my head, so I'm in the same boat, right? But at least I've been thinking about this. I've heard so many comments. People are like, "Oh, I don't know why I need personal core values." And I go, hang on a second. You're building a business. You know, the people that come to this retreat, most of them are pretty well off because there's a barrier to entry price-wise and the amount of business you do. And when my wife and I were talking about raising our kids, talking about core values, we've seen so many times where people that have finances, and because of pursuing finances, they didn't have good relationship with kids. Now they have finances and they think finances will improve the relationship. And we see, I have seen where someone who has a lot of money doesn't have a good relationship, gives a credit card to a kid, to their kid, that has no limit. Right? It's like there's probably not a worst thing you could do. In their mind, they're thinking, well, I wasn't there when they were growing up. At least I can do this for them. But that's not training a person to work for themselves, to make decisions, like things come easy for them, which is not
You're like
reality.
adding insult to injury by
Correct.
doing that. Now you're really training some really bad habits to your kids.
Yeah, so this is a very important topic. Alex, I know you wanted to add something along the lines as well.
Yeah, why is important, but today we have also a lot of lies on social media and everywhere, where, especially in his business, where you hear so many people, "Oh, I bought 3 rentals and that's it. I'm not doing nothing. I'm traveling and just getting money and this is like, if you just driven by that, you think, oh, money. And I think other things, because I talk to like Gen Zs, and they want to have money and they want to have freedom. They want to not to be tied to a location or things. They just want to be more free. And one of the ways they say, "Oh, I'm just going to invest in real estate. That's it. They're going to pay me rents, and this is how I'm going to become wealthy." And he can answer, if it's true or not, because a lot of podcasts you can watch and on YouTube, and they just say, "Yeah, I just have a couple rentals, couple doors, and I'm good." I even heard this recently about the trucker. He just came to USA. Maybe 2-3 years, and he said, "I got 2 trucks, they driving around, I travel." And I know my brother's owning a trucking business. I know how much headache they have with the accidents, load didn't come on time, this and that. It's like every business, there's...
It looks greener on the other side, for sure.
On the topic of why, I started the business in 2006. And when I was starting the business, I was praying, "God, you know my heart. You know how I'm going to give. You need to bless me because I'm going to give." And I know I'm not
Like,
silly.
like God is going to be impressed with like millions of dollars.
So
He owns everything in the
the reason
world.
why I'm mentioning this, because if I was the only one, I would keep quiet because this sounds dumb. Okay, I've heard this. I've heard this from other people, and yeah, God is never impressed with our finances. This was a completely incorrect why, right? I heard this one preacher say once, you would never find Jesus talking to someone, right? Someone is facing a challenge of some sort. You never see Jesus stand back and say, you know, the one thing you're missing is finance. You need more money. Jesus never did that, right? So there's that. So Jesus never did that, right? His heart was always to make sure that person is following Jesus Christ, right? Make sure you're in the will of God. Make sure you have the right relationship with God, right? And money is a tool that you can use. God, you're a manager, you're stewarding finances, so you're stewarding it well, and then you also have it for your family. So that's very powerful.
An important part to add to this as well is business is a great way, if it's your calling in life, if you feel God called you into a business, it's a great way to serve people. It's a great platform for kingdom of God, a great way to reach people. If that is why you're doing this, that's an amazing reason to do it. That's amazing why.
So last question before I kind of recap this whole topic of not being a slave to the business. Any boundaries you currently have where family is first, towards your family, or what type of boundaries you currently have so the business is not stressing out some sort of relationships? Can you guys talk about that?
I can share.
Yeah,
Because for me it's easy because I work with the Jewish community. So Friday nights, evenings, as soon as the sun's down, nobody's calling me, nobody's bothering me. We actually have like small groups with couples from our church that we get together once in 2 weeks. And the other time, like this Friday, we're going out with our kids. And Saturday is obviously also our family time.
Mm-hmm.
But when you own the house, it's like half a day you work
Yeah,
around your house.
yeah.
But then
That's honey-do list.
Yeah,
That's important.
Yeah, I enjoy it because you do things with kids,
Yeah.
with cutting woods or cleaning it up. There's something. It's
Yeah.
fun. And usually we go out on Saturday because my wife, she loves to go out. And I understand because she's more home than me. I probably also would be so desperate when I would stay home, clean up and do all that. So I'm trying to also every Saturday to go somewhere. And Sunday is our Sabbath because we just have to honor God. That's important. We don't do nothing, but we go to church. We spend time together. We go out. We can play pickleball.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool. Constantine.
But it's important. This time is important.
Yeah. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, for me, it's first of all, we schedule a lot of time with the kids over the summer when they're on their summer break. We do our V trips every year. We do some kind of a trip, and we have great time as a family, just building those memories and bonding with them. But I used to think that was kind of like my focal point of the year, but I realized it's those daily little things that we do with them are more impactful than just spending 2-3 weeks or whatever with the family. So some of the rules I established for myself, first of all, when my kids try to talk to me, I put my phone down. Okay, I'm not perfect. Sometimes I forget. In case my kids are watching, are going to try to say, "Well, Dad, you're not doing it all the time." But this is one of the rules that I have. If I'm conscious of it, I put the phone down and pay attention, so they know what. And my wife too, for that matter. Well, my wife first of all, and then the kids as well. And the second one, whenever they want to talk to me, they come and say, "Dad, I want to talk to you," or "Dad, come talk with us and spare some time with us." I take it as an invitation from God to that's priority number one. And I would just drop everything. Usually it happens in the evening anyway. And I would spend time with them, just having conversations, laughing, sharing, telling stories. They like to hear about everything, from politics to dreams to, angels and demons and whatever, everything they want to know.
Yeah.
And so I try to never say no to those things, even though sometimes, like, son, I have to work. I got to get this done. But it hurts me every time if I had to say it in the evening, to a point where I say to myself, you can never say no.
Mm-hmm.
Your work, can always be done later.
All right. So to recap, we started this topic about not being a slave, or how you are not a slave to your business, not being a slave to your business. There you go. So we started this topic of how not to be a slave to your business, right? And we started to talk about your early years, right? How we were hustling, sleeping in the office, working 24/7 or 36 hours or 80-hour weeks or whatever it is, and at some point realizing that things need to change, right? And at some point we talked about the mind shift that needed to happen. Konstantin, you've mentioned your mind shift from doing a lot of things yourself to people are your multipliers, right? Alex, you're scared to let go, and then you're like, okay, we need to give the opportunity for people to start growing. Then we started talking about some practical things, the CRM, EOS system, inventory management, GPS, time tracking, all of these cool things, and hiring remote help. And then we talked about kind of bringing everything in. Why, right? Why do you want to? We're not perfect. Obviously, our businesses at some point pull on us more than others, and our businesses are at the point where we can take 2 months vacation. God bless you. Coming up, right?
It's not a vacation. It's remote work.
All right. Yeah, we didn't
There
hear
is
that.
something else about him. He has some other source of income. I'm just telling you.
So
We have to investigate.
listen, I am always thinking that my wife has a secret bank account somewhere, probably $1 million in there already. I don't
This
know.
is a true story. My office where I worked was so inundated with flies a certain time of the year, like right above my office. I had no idea where they're coming from. There's a lot. And people would come to my office and say, yeah, well, a lot of flies. I said, what do you think? This office is only a cover for the real thing we do. Wait till you see what we're hiding above the ceiling.
Oh, boy. Yeah. So my call to you today is, hey, start where you are, right? If you're hustling in the business, right? Maybe you're in this first year or second year or maybe third year of the business and you're hustling and you barely have any time for anything. Start where you are. Start growing. Look at the circle of friends that are around you. Start getting around people that went further than you are so you can learn from them. We talked about the shift in mindset. Start doing that. And also, I wanted to mention that maybe God is calling you to come back to Him. We're Christians. Konstantin and Alex, we shared some of the things, some of the passions that we have. We're all Christians, and we love God, and we have a relationship with God, and it impacts what we do in business, how we behave in business. And it also gives a perspective of not being a slave to the business, right? And invest time into important things that are valuable for you. So maybe you were listening today and you're like, man, I really need to go back to church or start praying more, start reading the Bible. Do that. Ask, Holy Spirit, why don't you do your work in me, right? And He will. And we want to ask you, subscribe to the channel, share this content. If you found it useful, go to YouTube, share your best takeaway from today's episode. We're going to be giving a book, 3 books away as well. We'll pick our 3 best comments. So don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to share, and we'll see you next time. This is Kingdom Entrepreneurs Business Network Podcast, where faith meets the marketplace.